You've been told your whole life that buying a house is the best investment you can make, and that renting is just throwing your money away. What if I told you that following that traditional advice could secretly cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars? I am a multimillionaire and I have rented my house for over 20 years. The truth is, buying a house is the biggest financial decision of your life, yet less than 5% of people actually run the math. They buy based on societal pressure, myths, and what their parents did in a totally different economy. Today, we are breaking down the exact numbers, and I'm going to prove to you why a mortgage is the minimum you will pay, while rent is the maximum. Now, let that sentence sit with you for a second, because it might be the most expensive sentence you've ever ignored. A mortgage is the floor. Rent is the ceiling. Once you actually understand that one principle, you'll never look at a for sale sign the same way again. You'll drive through one of those nice suburban neighborhoods, see the manicured lawns, the three-car garages, the shiny SUVs in the driveway, and instead of feeling envy, you'll start feeling something closer to pity. Because what most people are looking at isn't wealth. It's debt with curb appeal. It's stress with a welcome mat. It's a luxury lifestyle choice wearing a really convincing costume called investment. Let's get something straight right now. Your primary residence, the house you actually live in, is almost never an investment. It's a consumption item. It's a place where you sleep, eat, argue with your spouse, and burn money. And that's fine. There is absolutely nothing wrong with buying a place to live. But the moment you start calling it an investment, the moment you start using investment logic to justify a lifestyle decision, that's when you get destroyed financially. That's when you stop running the numbers because you don't want the numbers to tell you the truth. You want the fantasy, the white picket fence, the equity, the American dream, and the entire industry, the realtors, the banks, the lenders, the home improvement stores, your in-laws, your coworkers, even strangers on the internet. Every single one of them is financially or emotionally incentivized to keep that fantasy alive. Nobody, and I mean nobody, is going to sit you down and walk you through the brutal math. So I will. Let me introduce you to the silent killer of homeowner wealth. I call them phantom costs. These are the costs that nobody mentions when you're sitting in that mortgage broker's office dreaming about your future kitchen island. Phantom costs are the expenses that magically appear after you sign the dotted line, and they will add 30 to 50% on top of your mortgage payment. Let me say that again, slowly, because this is the number that destroys people. Whatever your mortgage payment is, take that number and add somewhere between 30 and 50% on top of it. That is your real housing cost, not the number the bank told you, not the number you penciled into your budget spreadsheet. The real number. Start with maintenance. The general rule is that you will spend between 1 and 3% of the purchase price of your home every single year just to keep it from falling apart. So you bought a $400,000 house? Congratulations. Plan on spending between $4,000 and $12,000 every single year on maintenance alone. And that's the average. Some years you'll spend nothing. And then one beautiful Tuesday morning, your HVAC system will die, and the technician will quote you $14,000, and you will smile politely while your soul leaves your body. The roof? That's a $20,000 to $30,000 problem waiting to happen. Water heater? $2,000. Foundation crack? Tens of thousands. Tree falls on your fence? Your problem. Pipe burst in the wall? Your problem. Termites decide your house tastes delicious? Your problem. Then add property taxes. Depending on where you live, that's another 1 to 3% of the home's value. Every single year forever. You don't ever truly own your home. Stop paying property taxes for a few years and see what happens. The government will politely escort you off your own land, so that owning thing, it's actually closer to a perpetual lease from the state. Then add insurance. Then add HOA fees if you're unlucky enough to live somewhere with a homeowners association run by people who peaked in middle school. Then add closing costs, which can run 2 to 5% of the purchase price, money that just evaporates the second you sign. Then add interest. Oh, and we're going to spend a lot of time on interest because interest is where the real magic trick happens. This is what we call total cost of ownership. TCO. It's the only honest number in real estate, and it's the number nobody wants you to see. When you add up the mortgage, the interest, the taxes, the insurance, the maintenance, the closing costs, the renovations, the appliances, the landscaping, the special assessments, every single dollar that flows out of your bank account because you own this house, the actual cost of home ownership is staggering, often double, sometimes triple what people think they're paying. The mortgage payment is just the appetizer. Phantom costs are the entree, the dessert, and the bill the waiter slides over at the end. Now compare that to rent. When you write a rent check, that's it. That's the number. The maximum. If the dishwasher breaks, you call the landlord. If the roof leaks, you call the landlord. If the furnace explodes in January, guess what? You call the landlord. If property taxes go up, that's a problem for the owner, not for you. Yes, your rent might increase over time, but it doesn't surprise you with a $20,000 sewer line replacement on a random Thursday. Rent is predictable. Ownership is a slot machine where the only guaranteed outcome is that the house wins. Now I can already hear the comments. But you're paying your landlord's mortgage. Stop. Just stop. This is the dumbest, most repeated, most economically illiterate sentence in personal finance, and I want to bury it in this video forever. When you go to a restaurant, do you complain that you're paying the chef's mortgage? When you stay in a hotel, do you whine that you're paying the hotel owner's mortgage? When you take an Uber, do you scream out the window that you're paying the driver's car payment? No, you're paying for a service. You're paying for the value of shelter, of food, of transportation. You're not throwing money away. You are exchanging dollars for utility. That's how every single transaction in human history has worked. Renting is paying for the value of shelter without the massive liability, the stress, the immobility, and the catastrophic surprise expenses that come with ownership. You are buying flexibility. You are buying peace of mind. You are buying the ability to move for a better job in 30 days instead of being chained to a piece of land for the next 30 years. That's not throwing money away. That's purchasing a service that has real, measurable, life-improving value. Now let's talk about the most beautiful word in real estate marketing, equity. Oh, equity. Equity is the magic word realtors whisper to make you feel like every mortgage payment is a deposit into your future. You're building equity, they coo. Why pay rent when you could be building equity? Let me show you a chart that the mortgage industry hopes you never see. It's called an amortization table, and it is the cold, hard, numerical truth about what a mortgage actually does to your money. Here's how it works. When you take out a 30-year mortgage, your monthly payment stays roughly the same the entire time. But how that payment is split between interest and principal is wildly different at the start versus the end. In the first year of a typical 30-year mortgage, somewhere around 80 to 85% of every single dollar you pay goes straight to the bank as pure interest. Pure profit vanishes, gone. Only 15 to 20% goes to actually paying down what you owe on the house. In year 2, it's almost the same. Year 5, slightly better. Year 10, you're still paying way more interest than principal. It takes most people somewhere around year 16 or 17 of a 30-year mortgage before they finally start paying more toward the actual house than to the bank. Let that sink in. For more than half of your mortgage, the bank is the primary beneficiary of your monthly payment. Not you, not your family. The bank. So when somebody tells you you're building equity in years 1 through 10, what they actually mean is you're slowly, painfully scraping a few percentage points of ownership while shoveling tens of thousands of dollars per year into a banker's offshore vacation fund. Run the numbers on a $400,000 house at a 7% interest rate over 30 years. Over the life of that loan, you will pay close to $560,000 in interest alone. Not principal, interest. So your $400,000 house actually costs you $960,000 by the time you're done. And that's before we even start adding maintenance, taxes, insurance, and renovations. Add phantom costs, and that same house could easily cost you $1.4 to $1.6 million over 30 years for a house you bought for $400,000. And then people wonder why they hit 55 years old with a paid-off house and nothing in their retirement account. This is why. Now let me introduce you to the most powerful, most ignored, most life-changing concept in all of personal finance. Opportunity cost. This is the math nobody runs because if they ran it, they wouldn't buy the house. Imagine two people, we'll call them Sarah and Mike. They're the same age, they make the same money, they live in the same city. They both have $100,000 saved up. Mike is going to buy a $500,000 house. Sarah is going to keep renting a comparable place for, let's say, $1,000 less per month than Mike's total phantom cost-adjusted housing payment. Mike puts his $100,000 down. He signs a 30-year mortgage. He's locked in. Every month he writes a massive check, most of it disappearing into interest. Every year he gets surprise bills: the water heater, the roof, the fence, the HVAC. He renovates the kitchen because his wife saw something on social media. That's another $40,000. He's house poor. He drives a nice car to keep up appearances, but his retirement account looks like a sad joke. Sarah, meanwhile, keeps her $100,000. She drops it into a low-cost S&P 500 index fund. The historical average return of the S&P 500 is somewhere around 10% before inflation, around 7% after. Let's be conservative and use 8%. That $100,000, untouched, after 20 years, becomes around $466,000. After 30 years, it's around $1,006,000 from a single deposit, with zero additional contributions. But Sarah isn't done. Remember, Sarah is also saving $1,000 a month compared to Mike's true housing costs. She invests that $1,000 every single month into the same index fund. After 20 years, that monthly contribution alone grows to roughly $589,000. After 30 years, it's around $1,490,000. Add that to her original $100,000 grown out, and Sarah is sitting on roughly $2.5 million in liquid, accessible tax-advantaged wealth at the end of 30 years. What does Mike have? A house. Maybe worth $1.2 million. Maybe $1.5 million if he got lucky with the market. But that house isn't liquid. He can't eat it. He can't spend it. To access that money, he has to sell, pay realtor commissions, capital gains, moving costs, and then go find somewhere else to live, which costs money too. And meanwhile, every dollar he poured into that house was a dollar that wasn't compounding in the market. That's opportunity cost. That's the silent millionaire maker that homeowners forget exists. Sarah is a multimillionaire with a stock portfolio she can access at the click of a button. Mike has a paid-off house, a tired back from years of yard work, and a Home Depot loyalty card. Same income, same starting point, wildly different lives. That's not luck, that's math. Now let's talk about the rule that every responsible lender used to follow before greed and easy credit destroyed common sense. The 28-36 rule. Memorize this. Tattoo it on your forearm. The 28-36 rule says that your total housing costs, and that means your mortgage, your taxes, your insurance, your HOA, everything, should never exceed 28% of your gross monthly income. And your total debt payments, including the housing costs plus car loans, student loans, credit cards, all of it, should never exceed 36% of your gross monthly income. If you cannot buy a house and stay under those numbers, you cannot afford that house. Period. End of discussion. I don't care what the bank approved you for. The bank is not your friend. The bank is in the business of lending you the maximum amount of money you can theoretically pay back, because that maximizes their profit. The bank doesn't care if you eat ramen for 10 years. The bank doesn't care if your marriage falls apart from financial stress. The bank cares about one thing: their interest payment. So when the bank tells you that you qualify for a $600,000 house, what they're saying is, we calculated the maximum amount of suffering you can endure without missing a payment, and that's the number we're approving. Run your own numbers. Use 28% and 36% as your absolute ceiling, not your target. And factor in phantom costs. If after running the math, you can't afford the house under that rule, you have two choices. Buy a cheaper house. Or, and this is the part nobody tells you, just keep renting. Renting is not failure. Renting is a perfectly valid, mathematically sound, often superior financial strategy, especially in expensive markets where the price-to-rent ratio is completely out of whack. Let's talk about another delusion the housing industry sells you: the home renovation as an investment. You've seen the shows. The couple buys a fixer-upper. They spend $50,000 on a kitchen. The host smiles at the camera and says, "This renovation will add $80,000 to the home's value." You believe it. Everyone believes it. It's almost never true. In reality, most renovations return somewhere between 50 and 80 cents on the dollar. You spend $50,000 on a kitchen, and on a good day with the right market, you might recoup $35,000 to $40,000 when you sell. You just lit $10,000 to $15,000 on fire so you could have nicer countertops. That's not an investment. That's emotional luxury spending dressed up in a hard hat. And there is nothing wrong with luxury spending if you can afford it and you understand what it is. The problem is when you tell yourself it's an investment so you can justify it. That's the lie. That's the trap. A real investment puts more money back in your pocket than you put in. A renovation, in almost every single case, costs you more than it returns. It might make your house more enjoyable to live in. It might make it sell slightly faster. But it is not an investment. It is consumption. Call it what it is, and you'll make better decisions. Now I want to talk to the renters watching this, the ones who feel like they're falling behind, the ones whose parents won't stop asking when they're going to stop wasting money on rent. The ones who scroll through social media and see their college friends posting keys-in-hand photos in front of their starter homes and feel this gnawing sense that they're doing something wrong. I want you to hear me very carefully. You are not falling behind. You are very likely ahead. You just can't see it yet because your wealth is invisible. That's the secret nobody tells you. Real wealth is invisible. A bulging brokerage account, a maxed-out retirement plan, 6 months of emergency savings, 0 consumer debt, the freedom to quit a toxic job tomorrow, the ability to take a year off if your health demands it. None of that shows up on social media. None of it gets a housewarming party. Your friends who just bought the big house? You're seeing the down payment. You're seeing the granite countertops. You're not seeing the savings account they emptied to get there. You're not seeing the credit card debt they're using to furnish it. You're not seeing the marital tension when the AC dies in July. You're not seeing the panic when the property tax bill comes. You're seeing the highlight reel. Wealth that you can see is usually wealth that's gone. The big house, the big truck, the big watch, the big lifestyle. That's money that left the bank account, never to compound again. The people who actually become rich, truly rich, the kind of rich where you stop checking prices at the grocery store. Those people almost always look weirdly normal. They drive paid-off cars. They live in modest homes, or they rent and invest the difference. They wear plain clothes. They have nothing to prove, because their net worth is doing the talking inside accounts nobody can see. So when you feel that pang of inadequacy because your friend just bought a house and you're still renting, remember this. They have a liability. You have liquidity. They have walls. You have options. They have a 30-year contract with a bank. You have the freedom to move, to change jobs, to take risks, to invest aggressively. And in 20 years, when the math finally catches up, the picture is going to look very, very different than what social media is showing you today. Now let's talk about the psychology of why people buy houses they can't afford. Because this isn't just a math problem. This is a psychology problem. We are emotional creatures using a financial system designed to exploit emotions. Every single human being on Earth is wired to seek status, security, and tribal belonging. And in modern society, owning a home has become the single biggest symbol of all three. It says, "I made it." It says, "I'm a real adult now." It says, "I belong." Your parents grew up in an era when houses were 5 times cheaper relative to income, when interest rates worked very differently, when one income could support a family of four, and when staying at one job for 40 years was normal. They bought a house, paid it off, and retired comfortably. So they tell you the same playbook, but the economy they navigated does not exist anymore. Housing prices have outpaced wages by a country mile. Job tenure is 2 to 4 years. People relocate constantly. Healthcare costs have exploded. The math that worked for your parents will absolutely destroy you if you blindly follow it today. Then there's the Joneses, the neighbors, the cousins, the people at work. Everyone seems to be buying, so you start to feel like maybe you should too. Maybe you're missing out. Maybe you're being irresponsible by not jumping in. This is a primal tribal pressure, and it is engineered deliberately by an entire industry that profits when you sign that mortgage. Realtors profit, banks profit, title companies profit, furniture stores profit, home improvement chains profit, insurance companies profit. Everyone profits. Except you, the buyer, who is now locked into 30 years of phantom costs masquerading as wealth building. I want you to feel something right now. I want you to feel relief. If you've been renting and quietly investing, putting money into index funds, building an invisible empire while your friends post their closing day photos, you are not behind. You are running a different race, a smarter race, a race that is going to end with you in a much better financial position, with a fraction of the stress and a multiple of the optionality. And if you've already bought a house, don't panic. This isn't an attack on you. Maybe you got a great deal. Maybe you genuinely love the home and you understood it was a lifestyle decision, not an investment. That's wonderful. Just stop telling yourself the lie that it's making you rich, or stop pouring more money into renovations thinking you'll get it back. Stop tapping the equity to fund consumption. Treat the house like the consumption item it is, and pour every spare dollar into actual investments that compound silently in the background. The dream that was sold to your grandparents is not the dream available to you today. The math is different. The economy is different. The job market is different. Interest rates are different. Property taxes are different. Maintenance costs are different. The only thing that stayed the same is the marketing. So please, before you sign your name to the biggest financial decision of your life, run the numbers. Real numbers. Phantom costs included. Opportunity cost included. Compare it apples to apples against renting and aggressively investing the difference. And then decide. Not based on emotion, not based on social pressure, not based on what your parents did, based on math. Because at the end of the day, a mortgage is the minimum you will pay. Rent is the maximum. And the difference between those two numbers invested wisely, year after year, decade after decade, is the difference between dying with debt and dying with generational wealth. Don't let a mortgage make you house poor. If you want to know exactly how to invest the money you save from renting, click this video right here to learn the 4 rules of investing.